Hey folks, it's Finn. Wow, it's been a while. This might be a long vlog. Grab a cup of tea and let's have a catch up. Folks, it's been such a long time. It's now 19 days post-op. I was supposed to be home after 7 days post-op, so I'm so out of date with everything on here. I have been updating, going live over on the FinnFan page, so hopefully if you've seen that, if you haven't, why not? Pop over to the FinnFan page and join that, because I always do additional videos and pictures and updates and chats over there when I can't get on here. I'll put the link in the description and also up on here as well. So for those who haven't been keeping up to date over there, I am currently 19 days post-op from having stage 3 phalloplasty, in which they insert a erectile device to give Finn Jr. a lift off. I went to the Hospital of St John's and Elizabeth's in London under the care of Mr Garaffa this time. Usually Mr Christopher is my surgeon, but this time it was Mr Garaffa. This was going to be my final surgery. I was so excited, and it's just not panned out. I've not had stage 3 at all because they found an issue. Now, I'm gutted, absolutely gutted that I couldn't have stage 3, but I appreciate they needed to fix this. But what's been the biggest problem really is that I had such an awful hospital experience. The aftercare was appalling, lack of information, just appalling. I'm not going to go into it in huge detail here because I'll go off on a rant again and it will take up all your time. But I will put a link in the description to both the video I did over on the FinnFan page about it all and a link to my blog on Tumblr I wrote about the experience. But needless to say, I was discharged with no information whatsoever, and I had to do a lot of running around to find out what had been done. Luckily, Mr Christopher, my usual surgeon, answered one of my emails and I went to see him, and he was amazing and spent time describing to me exactly what I've had done and why I didn't have stage 3. Excuse my croaky voice. So the reason I couldn't have stage 3 was because they found a cul-de-sac. A cul-de what? Yes, a cul-de-sac. No, I don't have the cast of Neighbours in my penis. I have this lovely drawing here. You see this? This is my urethral tube, my wee pipe, and here we have a little tiny outpouching. This is what he calls a cul-de-sac. So basically when they went in surgery to catheterize me, they tried to go down the urethra and it kept getting stuck in this cul-de-sac. Now, I had no problems peeing beforehand, as you know. I was completely oblivious that there was any issue whatsoever, but apparently it would have caused me issues at some point or another, so they had to fix it. Fair enough. So they went in under my scrotum. I've got like about a 2-inch incision when they've gone in and fixed that. Quite simple, really. To tell me why it took so long to find out, I don't know. But anyway, the catheter itself wasn't too bad at first. After having a catheter stage 3, I was terrified again at the thought of having one for 3 weeks. But actually going in through the penis rather than suprapubic, I was finding it wasn't too bad in the first couple of days. I was very, very sore where they'd gone in and fixed the tube and what have you. But apart from that, I wasn't too bad. But then all of a sudden, everything just took a huge turn for the worst. I ended up with the catheter being blocked. It turned, I was bleeding a lot into the catheter bag, and they said that was because of where they'd done the exploration to see what was wrong. They put in something called a cystoscopy, where like a camera that they put in to have a look round, and apparently that can hurt you quite a lot inside and make you bleed, so that's what was coming out the catheter bag. But it completely blocked one night, completely and utterly blocked. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I thought, oh my God, we need a pee. And in my kind of half asleep state, I went to kind of run to the bathroom and then realised I had a catheter attached, and it took me a while to get my head around what was going on. And I was aware that nothing was draining out of the bag at all. My poor friends, Finn and Shell, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're both up for work. But they were lovely and told me off for not waking them sooner, sorry, and took me to hospital. Ironically, on the way, it actually cleared itself, but they kept me in for a bit and just checked me over. They didn't want to interfere too much because, you know, they didn't want to mess up the surgeon's work. It all seemed to be working okay, apart from still being very red. So they sent me back home to Finn and Shell's. On arriving back home, it was that night, I believe, that I passed something quite awful in my catheter. Now, if you're slightly squeamish, put your hands over your ears and I'll give you the thumbs up when I've stopped talking about this. Okay, you ready? Right. So I looked down at my catheter tube and it looked like this big red fat worm, like down the whole length of my catheter tube, there was this thing kind of curled. I totally freaked. My first thought was, oh, my urethral tube's fallen out. And then I realised that can't be the case because the catheter's in my urethral tube. So, you know, and after squeezing it a bit in the tube, I was aware that it was blood, but the way it kind of like obviously squeezed through, it just looked like this scary worm. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Okay, for those that got your hands over your ears, you're fine. Yeah, cool. So that was alarming, and then it just kept blocking. It kept doing it all the time. So I emailed Mr. Christopher, and he said, you've obviously got a clot in there that needs unblocking, so you need to get someone to wash out your catheter tube. Your catheter, you actually wash out somehow into the bladder, blah, blah, blah. So I'm at Finn and Shell's. I don't have my regular doctor or what have you, so I was ringing around everywhere, walk-in centres, doctors. Can someone do a bladder washout? No, don't do that, we don't do that. So in the end I had to go to London. What was amazing was it wasn't a nurse that did it, Mr. Christopher himself did it. So amazing, the complete opposite care I've had. Mr. Christopher, fantastic. Everybody else, awful. So he spent quite a bit of time kind of syringing saline solution into my bladder and filling my bladder up to try and break down this clot. Oh, hugely painful. I tell you what, when you're blocked with a catheter, it feels like your willy's going to explode and your bum's going to fall out. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But he just kept getting bits, it wasn't breaking down, and he said, you've probably got like a big liver-sized clot in there. Sorry, I didn't totally put your hand over your ears. I'm so squeamish. He said, there's nothing really we can do. I think the best thing is to take the catheter out. I still had another week left of the catheter, but he said the catheter tube is so small that it's just going to keep blocking. You're better off we take it out, and then these clots can come out. So I was then asked to attend the Spire on Saturday when he would take some time out of surgery to come and remove catheter and make sure I was okay. So I was all very excited for this. Catheter coming out was going to be amazing. So he takes the catheter out and he said, as long as you can pee, you can go home, you're fine, no worries. Boy, could I pee. I didn't stop peeing. He took it out and he said, he wants you to go 3 times and then we know you're okay. I went about 20. I just couldn't stop going, and I thought it was because I was drinking a lot of water, because I've been trying to drown this clot out. So when he came back down, I kind of laughed and said, well, I've been loads of times, but you know, it's probably the water. He's like, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. But it didn't stop. Poor Finn, right? I'm not talking about myself, by the way. This is my friend Finn. This is not my alter ego. I do have real friend Finn. We had to drive from Slough back to Kent, something like I think an hour and a half drive. God knows how long it took us because I couldn't go more than 10 minutes without a wee. So we were having to do little detours and what have you. And then the worst thing happened. We were on the motorway and there was no toilet, and I just had to go. So I had to get a bottle, but trying to negotiate going in a bottle, it's just not good, so I ended up having a bit of a wet patch. Oh my god, it was so humiliating. Oh dear, and so it went on, and so it still goes on. It won't stop. It appears I have an oversensitive bladder. I've probably got a bit of an infection as well. I am on antibiotics, so hopefully it'll calm down. But I've been going on average about every 10 minutes, including in the night. And it hurts. It really burns, like the very NP makes me go up on tiptoes and go Arr! I sound like, you know, Ludo out of Labyrinth, you know, smell bad. That's exactly what I sound like when I'm trying to not scream at the end of weeing at the moment. It's horrible. Over the last day, the gaps in between weeing have got longer, so I'm hopeful that things are gradually improving. I'm going to email Mr. Christopher today just to tell him what's going on. It's still bright red. It's just horrible. This whole thing has just been one big mess. It really has. But I'm home. I am... This is really awful. It's a long journey home from Finn and Shell's. I had to go to London Victoria. Finn took me to London Victoria and then straight on a coach from Victoria to here. But it's 5 hours. And without like rest stops... You know, if any toilets had been broken, I'd have been screwed. So I had to get a nappy. It's come to this. So if I'm out for more than like half an hour, I have to wear a nappy because I can't hold it. It's not a case of mind over matter. When I try and hold it, it's coming out. It's coming out of its own volition. So I had to wear a nappy home. Luckily, I didn't have to use it, but it just meant that, you know, I was okay. Because we got to one station and the toilets were shut. And I was like pacing on the platform thinking, I'm going to have an accident in front of all these people. Awful. So this has been really tough. Really, really tough. And it's, all surgery is really hard. But you come out of surgery and you have something to show for it. It's like in stage 1 when it was horrendous and stage 2 when it was horrendous. There was a reason, because at stage 1 I had a penis, and stage 2 I could stand to pee. And at stage 3 I've got nothing, and currently I'm worse off than when I went in. And it's really hard to kind of be a bit like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. But it's going to pass. It's not permanent. I mean, the catheter's come out a week early, so things are likely really swollen in there and sore, and I'm peeing on it when it would normally have an extra week's break. So it's just going to take some time. It's just hard. Really, really hard. You know, I knew this from lower surgery. You know, I've been very lucky so far to have a bump-free ride. And I kind of had a bit of an instinct that this might be my time to get a bit of a complication. So it's okay. It's okay. When you go into this, you have to be aware that this sort of stuff does happen, you know, but it's the trade-off, because when I was researching all this in the beginning, when I was researching all this in the beginning, I was speaking to people. I specifically spoke to the people that had problems, because I wanted to hear their take on it. And what made my mind up was people that had had the most awful of problems said to me, at the end of the day, the problems were fixed and it passed, and I was left with a fantastic working penis and a much better sense of self and self-confidence and wholeness and everything, and it was worthwhile. And so that's why I made the decision, because at the end of the day, these issues are passing, and once I've got over them, it'll be fine. You know, this is why I share honestly, because this isn't something where you go into hospital and you come out ping and it's all fine, blah 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 blah. It's a big op in lots of stages and lots of chance for complications. So it's okay. I think it's just been made harder this time because of the awful care I had first off in St John's and Elizabeth. I think if that hadn't been such a mess, I might have been alright, but it left me feeling quite traumatised in ways that I hadn't really thought. It's just amazing the effect bad care can have on you, not being given the right information and not feeling valued. That's how it felt in hospital, so that kind of set off a really bad head state, I think, in the first place. Thank God for friends, because I would not have got through this otherwise. I was so emotionally traumatised after the hospital experience, and then just trying to deal with everything else that was going on. And Finn and Shell, who I stayed with, were just incredible. They were incredible enough to offer their home to me for 7 days anyway, but then to keep me there for 19 days, and not only that, to run me around. I mean, Finn came to London with me and put up with me just being not on this planet, and took me to Slough, put up with me wing in his car, helped me to buy nappies. You know, it's incredible. I am so blessed with the amount of friends and support I have, and that's what I've been holding on to through all of this. You know, it'll pass, and then later on in the year I can have another attempt at stage 3, and it's okay. So I just need to do what I do when stuff gets tough, is just, you know, dig out those recovery tools and those wellness tools and use them, and it'll be alright. Sorry this has been a bit of a rambly, emotional, all over the place vlog. Just wanted to catch you all up really in one place about what's gone on. Yes. Right, I will update again soon in a bit more with it sense. Thanks ever so much, everyone, for all your comments and your love and your support and your well wishes and just keeping me going. And Finn and Shell, I love you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Lammy especially says thank you, and he misses all the fairy people. Love you all. Bye bye.